Hi. Today we're going to show you how to make a custom sponsor banner just like this one. Go ahead and follow along with me in Photoshop, or just go ahead and watch along just to know how to do it for yourself. Let's get into it. So, today I already have all of my banners made, right? But I'm going to go through the process just to make sure that you know how to make it, right? Now, what you're going to need to do this is just Photoshop, which you can get from the Creative Store. I think it's $20 a month to get it by itself, or you can do a pack with other Adobe products. And the tiniest amount of experience using Photoshop. It's very, very easy to make something like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through it step by step. So first thing that we want to do is I just want to show you the different things that you can make. So once you make your first one, right, and you get the basic shape out of it, once you make it for one social media, then it's very, very easy to adapt that to any others, right? So as you can see right here, every single one of them looks exactly the same, except the logo's different and the color's different, right? And then you see the Instagram one is just a little bit different because the color scheme is a little bit different because it has a gradient instead of a full color. And I'm going to show you how to do all of that, okay? So from here, you can see that I've made every single one for all of my social medias that I use for my gaming channel, okay? But let's go ahead and start this from scratch, okay? So what we want to do is make a new folder and just say, I don't know, scratch, doesn't matter, okay? Add a new file in there, okay? And what we're going to need to do is get a icon of whatever social media you want to get, okay? So let's say that we wanted to make Steam, let's say, because I don't have a Steam one yet, and there's no reason not to. Okay, so let's get a Steam logo, right? Now, you'd say these are pretty good already, right? This one seems pretty good, right? So what you want to do is right-click on it, open image in New tab. Click on it just to get the largest file possible. Right click and copy. Go back into Photoshop and paste into that new layer. Now, as you can see, it's pretty big, yeah? So Control T. That way you can edit the size. Grab one of the corners and drag it down. Okay? Now, we're going to want this about that size, okay? About. Doesn't have to be exact at all, okay? Now, you see the black border, right? The square, right? For me, personally, I think it looks better if we turn that into a circle and then have a rounded square behind it. So to do that, all you have to do is go right here, go to the Circle Select tool, eyeball the middle of the circle, and drag out to the side, right? Hold Shift to make it a perfect circle. Hold Alt at the same time, and that will make it, centered from where you started the click. Okay. Now, as you can tell, that's not perfectly in the center of the circle. So while holding Shift and Alt, use your index finger to then hold space at the same time. Now, when you move your cursor, you can move the entire circle without changing its shape. So try to center it as best you can. Let go of space only, and resize the circle to fit your preference. Okay? Once you've got the circle selected, you can let go of all buttons. With your layer selected, click the Layer Mask button. Boom, you got your circle. Okay? Now, we're going to stylize this icon in a little bit, but for now we'll leave it alone. Okay? Next, add a new layer below the layer that we just had. Okay? Now we're going to go to the square button, the square tool, and we're going to draw a square below it. Now, you see how it's more of a rectangle rather than square. So if you just hold Shift, it will make it a perfect square. Okay, just like that. Now, if for some reason your computer, your Photoshop file is making it an actual edged square instead of a rounded square like mine, all you have to do is edit the angles right here, okay? So it probably looks like that, right? All you have to do is drag this towards the center, and it'll be more rounded, okay? So, pick the roundness that you like. Remember, this is all subjective. And what we'll want to do is center it on that circle, on the icon, okay? Now we want to actually color it, because you probably don't want it jet black. So all you have to do is select the file, right? Select the rectangle you just made, go back to the square button, and with that selected, you can see that you can edit it again and go to the fill color right here. Okay? So now, here's where things get, here's where you can customize things a little bit more rather than just leaving it basic. Okay? So one option is you can just color it a single color, and let's say that we do blue, right? Just like that, right? Or what you can do is you can click the next button, which is a gradient, right? And because the icon that we picked is a gradient, I'm going to do that. So this is the gradient that the square will be using, okay? From black to white. The top squares select the opacity, right? How much it shows based on the background and such. Can things be seen through it? But instead, we're going to be editing the bottom squares, which is what colors are the gradient, okay? Double click on the square, and that will select the colors. And if you want to use the exact same color as the icon, all you have to do is literally pick it, okay? So now, what we'll want to do is pick the next colors, which is a darker blue, just like that. Boom, and we got it, right? Now, as you can see, it's kind of hard to notice the difference, right? Because there's not a lot of contrast. All you have to do is on the fill color, this button right here is the switch colors. So now when you look at it, it's very contrasted, because light blue up here contrasts with the dark, light blue right here contrasts with the dark. Okay, that way you can see it a lot easier. Okay? Lastly, for this, we're going to add a outline. Okay? So go to stroke right here and pick a color you like. You can do a gradient stroke if you'd like to, right? But because the icon and the rounded square are both gradient colors, I don't want to add a gradient stroke because that might be a little bit too many colors. It might look too busy. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a dark blue to go around the entire square, and go ahead and thicken that outline just like that. Okay? And there's our square. For now, all we're going to do left, Control T to transform it, and we're going to angle this the tiniest bit. Okay? Just to make it a little bit more active, as if it were moving. Okay? Next, what we're going to do is we're going to add the base layer, right? That base layer is what you're going to put your text on. Okay? Next, the exact same button, square button. Okay? Same thing, right? Move it how you like it, just to give you enough room for text, right? But now, this is up to you. If you can see how the new one that I made lines up pretty well with the icon, you can leave it like that, right? Or all you do is change the order of the layers to make it look like that, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that, but the colors are a little bit off for me because right here, the contrast is kind of weird, right? So all I'm going to do is, let's see, I can actually do this a couple ways. So one thing, I can go back to the square button, edit the colors, and let's say I change the darkness of here and change it just the tiniest bit lighter, right? That way it adds a little bit more contrast. You can see this a little bit more. And because our text on there is going to be black, that way we can see the text a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that. All I'm going to do is add in my text layer, which I've made custom for me. Center it on there. Now, that would be good for most people, right? But let's go ahead and do just a little bit of extra work to really make this pop. Okay, so you can see it's pretty shaded, right? But it doesn't really look like it has dimension. It's kind of just shaded from one color to the next, right? We're going to add a little bit of dimension to this, okay? So very first thing, let's go ahead and edit our logo. So once you have your layer selected, right click, go to the very top and click blending options. Okay? The very first option right here is bevel and emboss. Once you click that, it gives it a little bit of a shader over top of it. And if you click on the option, you have all of these options that you can play with to make it, to change how it will look. Now, the main thing that you want to change is this button right here. All of these different pictures show you what's the surface going to look like on our icon. Okay? If you pick the smooth, it's going to shade it very smooth. If you're going to pick the bumpy, it will shade it pretty bumpy. Okay? And so on and so forth. So I'm going to pick this rounded shape because I feel like a rounded button like this would be pretty rounded. Okay? Next, you can pick the depth right here, so it can show, you know, how much shading do you actually want? How smooth do you want the shading, right? Which, remember, you can have it rounded like this, like a coin, or you can have it like this, more like a button. Okay, so I'm going to leave it just like that. You can soften the shading if you want to, right? This dial right here is really what's going to do the magic, because this is choosing where is the light coming from, right? And you can think this as a sundial, right? So let's say if we pick the sun to come from this way, it will change where the light comes from, okay? So you can go ahead and mess with this, but realize that closer to the center you get, the more the light will show from the middle. Or closer to the edge, it will show closer to the edge. Okay, so we're going to want a good balance, right? I think that's pretty good. Okay? If you want to, you can use global light, which will use the same lighting for every one of the items in your file. Okay? So by using that, let's change it back to this. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so now, if you want to, you can change the highlight mode and the shadow mode, but all that does is it tells the computer how you want to shade or lighten the object. Okay, so screen basically takes away saturation as well as lighten the object. But instead, if you just do lighten, it doesn't take away color, or if you do color dodge, or linear dodge, and so on and so forth. So you can choose which one you think would be better. I think... no. Yeah. Yeah, I like the light. Right? Okay, so I'm gonna leave it as screen. The same thing with shadow mode. It just changes how are you going to shade the colors. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there. But if you can see, our icon right here is pretty bright. It's pretty reflective right now. So all I'm going to do is turn down the opacity, do something about that, just to give it a little bit of shading, but not too much. Okay? Let's see. Now, what I'm going to want to do is add a little bit of, you know, reflectivity to that, to the edge. Make it a little bit more, you know, stylized. So I'm going to screw around with these settings just the tiniest bit. And I'm going to see if I can get this to look any more pleasing. Ugh. 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 Nope, 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 nope. Nah. Yeah. Many of these aren't really working out for me, personally. Yeah, so let's have a high depth, do a decently low size just to get that ridge, soften it a little bit. Okay, now I do want to contour it, which adds a little bit of extra texture. All right, so let's choose very bumpy. See if the range does much. Doesn't so far. I don't want a texture so far. So using the contour, let's see if that changes anything. You see how it kind of looks like a wave now instead? Let's lessen the softness. You know? Screen, change the angle of the light. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm starting to really like it. Now, realize that you don't have to do any of this. I'm just kind of doing it because I can, because there's no harm in it. Okay, so actually, yeah, boom. All right, I'm gonna leave the icon just like that. Now, do the exact same thing for the others. Okay, blending options, bevel and emboss. Screw with the settings. Ugh. Boom, boom. Yeah. Looks pretty good. Boom, done. Last rectangle, blending options, bevel and emboss, contour, and those settings should be already there. Boom. Now, one thing that I do think that this will greatly benefit is the top square. You add a drop shadow. Okay, so go ahead and click the drop shadow setting right here. Okay, edit the angle, right, to match the lighting, or not, whatever you like. Okay, you can choose the distance, the spread, and how much it softens with distance. Okay? I think that looks pretty good. Boom. Done. Can you see how easy that is? Okay, so now that we've made this, okay, you got your editable text on there, right? You got your icon, you got the background shaders, okay? Now, once you have that, right, if you want to, adjust this to make another icon, so you see up here how I have different, versions of the same thing. All you have to do is right-click the folder, duplicate the folder, right? So let's say we make a scratch copy, right? Because, instead of Steam, right, which actually, let me name that Steam. Right? Instead of Steam, let's say that next time we make, I don't know, Photoshop. Because why not? I don't know. Okay, so now that you have the duplicated folder, all you have to do is now hide the Steam folder, go into here, change the icon, just like we did at the beginning of this, okay? Now, if you want to change the colors of the, background without having to go through all of the extra process of remaking it, and especially if you want it to look exactly the same as it pulses, right? That way you're, anybody reading it's not going to get, confused because the letters keep moving or the shape keeps changing or whatever. All you have to do is, without moving anything, you don't have to move anything. All you do is select the rectangle layers, right-click, and click Rasterize. What that does is it changes the smart object with the square that you can change as you like. You change that into an actual image, and that image then you can change the colors without changing anything. Very, very easy. So now change both of those, rasterize both of them, and select both of them. Now that you've gotten both selected, go to the top, go to Image. Oh, yeah, you got to do one at a time. Go to Image, Adjustments, Hue, Saturation. And now you can change the colors however you like, right? So let's say, this time we're going to go for a good green because I haven't made a green one yet. And I feel like it. So let's change both to a nice green. Change, boom. Let's say we make the bottom one a slight lighter, right? And let's say that you really like that, but for some reason, let's say that you don't like the lighting because the way that you made it, let's say the lighting is too dark, so you can't really read your text very easily, or let's say it's too bright and whatever. So if you want to change the lighting, right, instead of going to, hue saturation and changing the lightness, which you can see, washes out the color, or just makes it way too dark like that, instead of doing that, what I suggest is, instead of going to hue saturation, go to levels, okay? Because what levels does, this grid right here, what that shows you is what colors and what, lightness and darkness pixels do you have in that picture right now. So as you can see right here, you don't really have any white colors, but also down here you don't have ultra black colors, right? You don't really have, light gray. You don't have any of the others. What you do have is a decent amount of color right here, one slight color right here. It's probably the light edge right here, and then right here is you have the black border, well, the dark green border, okay? So all you have to do is this middle slider, slide it towards the one that you want. And the difference of what that does, instead of just making it super dark or super light and washing out the colors, this doesn't change the colors at all. So even if you go really high, it doesn't really wash out the saturation. Instead, what it does is it changes how the light refracts with those color pixels, and it just lightens them without taking the saturation away. And I find doing that will be a lot easier to change and make it a lot more lighter or darker, because you're not changing any of the pixels. All of the pixels are going to be the same. It's just how are you viewing the pixels. That way you're not messing with any of the colors, and you can always revert it whenever you want to. Okay? So, pretty much. Go ahead and leave me a comment if you have a specific question, or, how did I did this, how do you do that, such like that. Go ahead and like the video. Go ahead and subscribe. We're going to be doing a lot more tutorials like this, and also we're going to be showing our gaming highlights. We're going to do streaming and everything in between on every one of the sponsors above. Okay? Go ahead and follow, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much.